For workers that do become agents, is there a transition that happens from the kind of cat they were as a wrestler?
Well, you got to have the right guys for that job, for sure. You know, the agents. Vince gave him a fair bit of authority and power, and he backs his agents. I don't think it wasn't a position handed down lightly. They didn't just pick anyone to be agents. But I think you got to have the right guys, like the guys that I think of being good agents. Like Rene Goulet was a great agent because he was one of the boys. He was one of the wrestlers once upon a time, and he knew what it was like to be on the road, and he knew what it was like when we have a bad travel day, and he could be more understanding and logical about simple things. Whereas some guys...
Let's say Tony Garea, for example.
Tony, I thought, was the same thing. He was a good guy to have as an agent because he didn't really have an axe to grind.
Strongbow?
Strongbow was one of the best.
Steele?
Steele was one of the worst. George Steele was one of those kind of guys. I remember George Steele doing lines of coke and partying with everyone else, and then like a week later or a couple of weeks later they made him an agent, and he was just like one of the prisoners that got turned into one of the guards, and he was just a motherfucker, man. He was not a good guy at all. Yeah, he was always fine. He fined my brother Owen in Berserker one time. We were 1 minute late in Hershey Park one time when I was champion, right after I won the belt. I remember Owen and Berserker were riding with me just because I was give him a free ride to the, I never charged for trans. We got there, we were laughing, we were taking our time, we were getting coffees and stuff like that, and walking the dress room. And George Scott's like this, and he goes, "It's 6:32 or something like that," and I go, "So?" He goes, "You're 2 minutes late." I go, "Really?" He goes, "I got to fine you." He fined all of us $500 each.
And that would hold up with Vince in the office if George Steele did that?
I was champion. I was supposed to set an example for the rest of the company. I'm on last. I'm there at 6:32. I go, "This is bullshit." Rene Goulet or Chief Jay Strongbow or any of them, none of them would ever do something like that. But George Steele, And I need to tell the end of that story is that I remember my brother Owen and Macho Man. I can actually tell this story now. They took his Halliburton, if he's ever wondered whatever happened to his Halliburton. He had locked up with his passport and his colostomy bags and his pills and everything else, and there's airplane tickets. And I remember Owen, him and Randy snuck it out under a jacket to the car. And later on that night, an hour later after we left the building, I remember Owen, we were driving over a bridge in somewhere like New Rochelle or something like that, and he opened the window and threw it out, and it went sailing over into the river, Manhattan River or something like that. But I just remember George Scott. I always wondered, why would someone do that to such a good guy? But
George Steele.
George Steele.
George Scott.
I'm sorry, George Steele. And he was not a good guy. He was a snitch.